What up, y'all? It's another Saturday late episode of the W.E.S.T podcast. And, I'm your host, Mots, of course. A lot of things going on just to start off. Like I said, I've been a little bit busy away from the podcast a little bit. I've been starting businesses that I've been working on for a long time, and I finally launched them. And one is my pride and joy is the website for the Mott's West podcast. So that's the one I'm proud of the most. You can find your t-shirts, your merch at mottswest.com. I have another separate website for my LLC, McCoy Hanlon. I have a real estate wholesaling website, which I'm investing in real estate. Some of you may know that that's what one of the things that I do. So I have a website for investing in real estate. I have a website for selling homes as an investor because you don't have to have your license to do that. So that's one of the things I do. And I also do loans for real estate investors. So investors can come to me, get money to buy a house, get money to fix it up, and then they sell it and pay the loan back. Now, I also do credit repair. That's another one of my big bread and butters that I've done for many, many years, but I got a website for that now. And I'll probably post them all up, maybe on the episode or maybe on one of the episodes of the vlogs on my businesses. So that's pretty much what I've been doing, side hustling, getting it together. So anyway, that's what I've been doing with my week. So let's get into some fun stuff. Let's get into not business. Let's get into some stuff that we like, some good old-fashioned wrestling.
The big story of the week was this.
Okay, so if you tuned into the last episode or you've been paying attention to the news, you know that WWE has merged with UFC to form TKO Holdings, which is going to be a partnership. Endeavor, which owns UFC, actually is the majority owner in the TKO Holdings company. TKO again is WWE and UFC together, or Endeavor that owns UFC. Endeavor owns 51% of the shares, making them the controlling interest. Vince McMahon owns 49%, making him the minority owner. But they say they're going to work together to basically create combined content to take each other's products to the next level. So I'm interested in seeing that. One thing that I didn't like seeing was the number of releases that happened this past week due to the merger. And pretty much a lot of kind of big name stars got released. You have Elias, Who Wants to Walk with Elias? Rick Boogs was released. A couple of NXT stars, but the big name was shocking. Was Matt Riddle. If you don't know Matt Riddle, you probably are familiar with who he is, the original Bro. All I can say that shocked me because he was just on TV. Because a lot of the wrestlers that were released, you haven't really seen them on TV really as much, and they were making big money. Shanky, who was part of Jinder Mahal's group. You guys know the real tall Indian dude that used to Dancing Shanky. Who else? Daba Kato. If you were familiar with when WWE was doing this whole Fight Club thing, when the Hurt Business just formed, they had this Fight Club thing kind of going on with Shane McMahon, and Daba Kato was one of the guys that were participating in it. Big dude with the braids, and he was also Colonel Aziz when Apollo Crews went African. And also another big name was Riddick Moss, or Madcap Moss. He was actually part of that whole Fight Club promotion or thing that they were trying to do too. So shouts out to them. And actually Mustafa Ali was released. and also Tennille Dashwood, which y'all remember as oh dang, I just remember as Tennille Dashwood, but she was the oh my goodness, she had the snake or whatever, or Emma Lucian. That's who she was, Emma Lucian. So a lot of superstars now are getting released, and they're trying to basically cut at least $50 to $100 million out of their budget, was the report. So that was a bad week for those superstars in WWE. But now we want to know is who is
Living my best week. The big story of the week was this.
all right. So every week, you know that wrestling is on Saturday through Saturday, and every show has its own storyline, from Collision to Raw to SmackDown to Rampage to Dynamite and Impact Wrestling, but only one show can be. So this is what we do. We go through the main event of each show, because that's pretty much the main storyline. That lets you know, if you want to know what's going on in the world of wrestling or which company, pay attention to the main event, the last match of the evening, and that'll tell you. So we're going to start off with Saturday with... Okay, so on Collision, there was a lot actually going on, but they decided to end it with a match for the TBS Championship. Chris Statlander defended against Britt Baker. As you guys know, last week was Chris Statlander versus Jade, who returned from a long absence. And Jade was the longtime 60-0 undefeated TBS champion. She is now rumored to be going to WWE. And she kind of hugged Chris Statlander last week. And that was pretty much her goodbye to AEW. So they have pretty big plans for Jade in WWE. So, yeah, Chris Statlander defeated Britt Baker to defend her TBS championship, and that was that. So then we go to Monday for... Okay, so Monday Night Raw gets a little bit interesting. Jey Uso, main event, as you know, is now on Raw. He's out of the bloodline. He's trying to take up for himself and be a good guy. And the good superstars don't trust him. One of the main ones, Drew McIntyre, because Drew McIntyre was one of the guys that he helped Roman Reigns screw out of an opportunity at the undisputed Universal WWE Heavyweight Championship. So, they didn't get along, so they got it on. Drew McIntyre versus main event Jey Uso. This whole time, the Judgment Day has been trying to recruit Jey Uso into their group, and he really hasn't given an answer, and they wanted an answer that night. So while he was facing Drew McIntyre, the Judgment Day came down to ringside, acted like they were supporting Jey. And finally, when they had the opportunity, they kind of helped Jey out and was like, yeah, so now you're on our side, right? Nope. Jey super kicked them all in the face. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic kicked them all. And unfortunately, that distracted him from his opponent, Drew McIntyre, who hit him with a Claymore, got the pin. And as Drew was leaving, he noticed Judgment Day got ready to beat Jey Uso's you-know-what, his John Hine parts. And pretty much, Drew kept kind of walking, looking back, while Judgment Day proceeded to stomp Jey Uso. And pretty much, it was evident that Drew McIntyre was not going to stop, go back and help Jey. So out comes Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, to help Jey Uso out. And Jey Uso has been pretty much advocated by Cody Rhodes for being on SmackDown to help him kind of do his own thing outside of the bloodline. So that was that. So we skip Tuesday. That's NXT. That's the rookies, and a lot of them got released anyway. So we go to... So Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite. And AEW Dynamite was actually Grand Slam. They having, like, AEW likes to have many premium live events is what they're starting to call pay-per-views now. Premium live events. So Wednesday was AEW Grand Slam. And the main event was Samoa Joe, who won the Grand Slam tournament, got his opportunity to fight MJF for the AEW Heavyweight Championship. I kind of liked it because MJF is really taking to being a good guy, a babyface, and he stole an old 1990s promo from Bret the Hitman Hart where a kid and his dad were backstage, happened to catch Bret the Hitman Hart, and the kid calls out to him, and Bret the Hitman Hart gives him his glasses and kind of says, "All right, kid," and the kid says, "Go get him, Hitman." So the kid calls out to MJF. MJF turns around, gives him his Burberry scarf, and he whispers something in the kid's ear. And so MJF turns to walk away. Kid looks up at his dad and goes, "Dad, I'm adopted." So that was cool. Anyway, Samoa Joe pretty much laid a beat down on MJF, but it wasn't enough. MJF pulled out the win, defended the AEW championship, and afterwards, uncharacteristically, there was a show of respect. MJF and Samoa Joe shook hands, and that was that. So now, Thursday night. Okay, so Impact Wrestling is in the process of celebrating their 1000th episode. They celebrated in 2 parts last week and this week. So this week, they celebrated with a 10-women tag team match featuring the past, present, and the future of the Knockouts division, which I loved because it featured the team of Awesome Kong with Saida, with her old manager, Mickie James, Gail Kim, and Trinity and Jordynne Grace versus Giselle Shaw, Savannah Evans, Deonna Purrazzo, Tasha Steelz, and returning Angelina Love and Velvet Sky, the beautiful people. I loved it, loved it, loved it. It was such a, it was a jam-packed filled match with all the knockouts. You had the past of Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, and Mickie James. You also had the beautiful people who were Impact Originals. Then you had the future, which is Deonna Purrazzo and Giselle Shaw and Savannah Evans, Tasha Steelz. And then you also had Trinity on the other side. And it was a great match altogether. It was very nostalgic. And in the end, it was Awesome Kong, old but Awesome Kong, defeating or pinning Giselle Shaw with her implant buster. So you can't beat that. I'm an Impact original. I go way back with Impact, so I liked it. Then on Friday, we have... I got to give it up to Rampage because for a while now, Rampage has been kind of like, crap in the bed with their show. They've been really mailing it in, but this time they decided to pick it up with a special 2-parter. The main event were the ROH 6-man tag champions, the Gates of Agony and Brian Cage, representing the Mogul Embassy, defending against the Elite, Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks. And to my surprise, and to pretty much probably everybody's surprise, the Hung Bucks won the match and are your new ROH 6-man tag team champions. And then finally, on Friday, you have... Okay, so SmackDown didn't have a normal main event. It started off from last week where the Bloodline, Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, kind of went in on John Cena, and AJ Styles came out to help John Cena. And so this week, they wanted a tag team match, and the Bloodline, pretty much led now by kind of Jimmy in a way, without Roman Reigns there. He's calling the shots even over Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman's like, what's going on here? So, John Cena and AJ Styles come out, and they're like, we want a match against the Bloodline. And so Adam Pearce, the whole show, is trying to find Paul Heyman to, make it happen, because Adam Pearce supposedly can just make matches whenever he wants. But because the Bloodline goes through Paul Heyman, he has to consult Paul Heyman first, yada yada. So it comes down to the Bloodline is not going to have a match that night. They are going to agree to a future tag team match at the next pay-per-view, which is Fastlane. And so what they would do that night was have a contract signing bloodline with Cena and AJ Styles. So toward the end of the night, when it was time to sign the contract, John Cena comes out first, signs as part of the contract. Then he's waiting for AJ Styles. AJ Styles' music hits, but he doesn't show up. Cameras go backstage. He's getting beat the heck out of by Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, who they managed to knock him over a bunch of boxes and crates and equipment. And Solo, from about 15 foot high, splashes AJ. We don't see what happened. All we see is the aftermath. There's carnage. AJ Styles obviously has to be rushed to the hospital. His guy, Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Mia Yim go with AJ to the hospital. And my whole question is, throughout this whole thing, they're supposed to be the OC, Bullet Club, the original club. Where was Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows through all this, even though they told him not to get involved in bloodline business, which I think is saying we're too chicken to fight, the NOI family. So anyway, I digress. So John Cena, PO'd, goes back to basically take on the bloodline by himself, which was the bloodline, or Jimmy Uso's whole plan, is basically we're going to take out AJ Styles and John Cena, so when it comes time to Fastlane, ain't going to be no tag team for us to face. And that's pretty much what they did. At the end of the show, they pretty much took out John Cena and left him laying. So that's pretty much the week. And the show I'm going to have to give it to Rampage, because AEW realized it was messing up and it stepped up. It had the Elite. It had Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho coming together to face Don Callis, the Don Callis family. It had Christian. It had Luchasaurus versus Sting and Darby Allin. They announced Will Ospreay. That was Impact. Oops. But basically, they're signing a lot of matches for Wrestle Dream. So that's going to be cool. So I got to give it to Rampage. So Rampage is... And when we come back, I'm going to take a look at LA Sports. Mott Sports West. I'm thinking of the spiel. I'm in my feels for the spiel. I miss Ronnie and the gang. So shouts out to you, Ronnie Royale, Sam360, the spiel. But when we come back, we're going to have Mott Sports West, and then we're going to find out what you watching and see what we're doing on the travel side.
What up, y'all? This is Mott of the Mott's West Podcast. If you want to advertise here on the Mott's West Podcast, or run a promo, become a sponsor, have a question, comment, or just want to hit me up, you can find me on Twitter at Matts_West. That's MATTS_West. On Instagram at Mott's West Podcast, or MottsWestPodcast@gmail.com.
Our coaching did a horrible job. The players did a horrible job. We got our ass kicked.
That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins.
All right, y'all. It's Mott Sports West. Let's go. The only teams that matters in LA, the Rams, Lakers, and Dodgers. Hey. All right, let's start out with some Rams news. In the last Rams game versus the 49ers, the Rams were not expected to win the game, but what it really was a test to see exactly how good the Rams are after their first game against the Seahawks, where they won and they dominated pretty much. So they did give the 49ers all that they can handle, and in Vegas, the 49ers were actually favored to win by 8 points, and then later on the line moved down to 7.5 points. So fourth quarter, the 49ers were leading by 10, and of course the Rams needed 2 scores to come back into the game, a field goal and a touchdown with a completed extra point or a 2-point conversion. But with 4 seconds left to go in the game, Coach McVay decides to kick a field goal. And so Sean McVay, well, the Rams fans and even me, all the betting sites were thinking, okay, Sean McVay knows the betting line, and if he can't beat the 49ers to stick it to their fans who bet on the 49ers and anybody that bet on the 49ers, I'm going to give everybody what they call a bad beat in sports betting. So what a bad beat is when a team that is favored to win, or when a team is obviously winning and they're covering the point spread, whether it's plus or minus, and something happens to change that, like let's say, like the 49ers were favored to win by 8 or 7, and then the Rams kick a 3-point field goal at the end of regulation, and the 49ers only end up winning by 7, which messes up the Vegas lines, and everybody loses money. So Coach McVay explained that he didn't know the Vegas line. That was not his intention. He thought that they could get 3 points and they might have enough time to do an onside kick. He didn't want to put Matthew Stafford or the wide receivers in danger, yada, yada. Man, come on, McVay. You knew. You absolutely knew about the point spread, and that's what you wanted to do. So, anyway, they go Monday. They got the Monday night game versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and they don't know who to prepare for because Joe Burrow is supposedly out with a calf injury. We haven't heard one way or the other whether he's actually going to play. They did sign somebody from the practice squad, a backup quarterback, and so we're just kind of waiting to see. The Rams say that they're going to practice as if Joe Burrow was playing so that they are prepared for the harder quarterback to face. Okay, Lakers. Really quick, the only news on the Lakers is they're going to start their preseason next week. And Stephen A. actually, his new show with Shannon Sharp is, basically they started out talking about the Lakers and the roster that they have. And Stephen A., the big basketball guy that he is, he really, really likes what the Lakers have put together as far as their roster. They were, after they traded Russell Westbrook and they got into that, they got all of the guys that they signed at the trade deadline. Their record in 26 games was 8-18, or 18-8, 18 wins, 8 losses, which was good enough for first place in the West, in the Western Conference at that half of the season. So they kept that roster together. They're signing all of those players to pretty good deals, pretty good manageable deals, and Rob Pelinka's doing a real good job managing those contracts. And that's what I like to see. And so that's pretty much it for the Lakers. We're just waiting to start their preseason. Hopefully LeBron and AD can remain healthy. Hopefully that supporting cast can continue in their role. Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and hopefully Julius Randle gets his, D'Angelo Russell gets his act together. And I'm sorry, I'm starting to kind of lose my voice, if you guys can already tell. I've been talking too much, being Mr. Businessman here. Anyway, Dodgers have clinched the NL West. They are going into the playoffs as the NL West champions, and the more victories they get, the closer they get to the best record in baseball, owned by the Braves, and the closer they get to having home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Dave Roberts, the manager, was actually on with my buddies Mason and Ireland this week to talk about just how he feels going into the postseason. Despite all of the losses that they have at pitching, Julio Urias, Walker Buehler, he's talking that they still have Clayton Kershaw, these new guys that they have, Lance Lynn, and the guy that they picked up hurt. And he's confident that the pitching that they have with the young guys, the new guys, that they can actually win a World Series. So that's good enough for me, Dave. Dave Roberts is a very likable guy, despite what other people think. Morales, CMN Spectrum. So we wish the Dodgers well in October. It's playoffs. The playoffs are going to start pretty soon, in next week or so, actually. So go Dodgers, go blue. And with that, I'm going to be watching that. But I want to know what you watching. So myself, I'm still into Ahsoka, the new Star Wars series, because you know I'm into anything Star Wars and Marvel. I like where it's going. There's pretty much, if you watch Star Wars Rebels, you'll really like Ahsoka. So that's all I'm going to say about that without the spoilers. The new bad guys are cool. I actually did read the books that it kind of brings into canon. Heir to the Empire, that series, which happens after Return of the Jedi, which brings in Grand Admiral Thrawn and what he's about. He's the kind of the big bad in the whole new thing. That's not a secret. That's not a spoiler. Also, they have this old Jedi turned bad and his apprentice in there. They're pretty good characters, and they have a witch with them who is tied to Grand Admiral Thrawn's service. So the whole witch aspect, now that you have the Jedi, the Sith, you have witches. So it's getting pretty interesting. I'm not going to spoil it, so you should, if you're a Star Wars fan or if you like Rebels or the Clone Wars, watch Ahsoka. It's really good. And as far as travel goes, I'm sorry, your boy hasn't really thought about traveling lately because I've been here in the home office developing the businesses, so I really can't say too much for travel, but I will be traveling soon. So I will definitely get back on that, and if I come up with a recipe that I can share with you guys from another state or another part of the world, definitely will. I'm going to get back on that, I promise. And I promise you the next episode of the W.E.S.T podcast is going to be fire. All right. Peace.